In our society, men culturally have been positioned as the providers.
What are the challenges that women face in building wealth?
Over 50% of businesses in Africa, so in this continent, are led by women. But that 50% usually attracts less than 5% of the total funding available for businesses.
The development of Nigeria and Africa hinges on our ability to liberate our women and allow them to fulfill their fullest potential.
It's important to have money, but it's more important to know how to manage your money and how to save and invest for the future.
Particularly because money gives you options and choices in life.
Show me the money is not just a catchphrase. It represents a critical element in achieving gender equality. For many women who aspire to leadership positions, mobilizing financial resources continues to be a major barrier. Welcome to the Leading Woman Show Governance Series, brought to you by our sponsors, the National Endowment for Democracy and Luminate. My name is Abosede Jojogan, and today we will discuss Show Me the Money. A report by the International Finance Corporation revealed that Nigerian women entrepreneurs face a $287 billion credit gap, hampering their ability to invest in businesses, expand their ventures, and influence economic growth. Joining us today as guests to explore the financial challenges women face, the importance of women understanding and building wealth, how to bridge the financial gender gap, and how women can leverage their financial knowledge to get into and thrive in leadership positions across all levels. We have in the studio with us today Ms. Tokunbo Ishmael. She's the co-founder and managing director of Alethea Capital, a female impact investing private equity firm. She's also a Yale World Fellow and a member of the inaugural cohort of the Aspen Institute for Finance Leaders Fellowship. And our other guest is Ms. Rolake Akinkugbe. She's an energy and infrastructure executive with more than 17 years experience in finance and investment in the frontier and emerging markets. Now, with these guests, I'm sure you cannot wait to dive into the conversation. So we'll take a short break and we'll continue the conversation when we get back. Welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about Show Me the Money. And I have Tokunbo and Rolake in the studio with us. So, we didn't set you up.
Really?
Yes. But one thing I have to say, as somebody who's done this work for a bit, is there's just a huge barrier when it comes to finances and women generally, but even more specifically when it comes to women aspiring to leadership. So Tokunbo, let me start with you. How important is it for anyone to know how to manage money or to know about money?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Money makes the world go round. Money is the fuel of any economy. Money in the households enables you to do everything, the essentials, to eat, to live. So without a question, it's important for people to understand money. And oftentimes people don't understand money because really it's not taught. Exactly. It's not taught from a young age. And it's interesting that you started with this question, because one of the things that I always say is that we spend so much time talking about financial inclusion. So making it possible for homes and households to have access to finance, because that, again, money makes the world go round. That's what enables them to live and have good livelihoods. But when we talk about that, we don't talk about how people have financial literacy such that inclusion is meaningful for them.
That's right.
So, if you provide people with financial access but no literacy, you're really still excluding them, because very quickly they will lose the money. So it's important from that perspective to live full lives and have good livelihoods. And what is important about it, financial literacy, you need to know how to plan, for your money. You need to, if you're earning an income, when you get, let's say you get 100 units, how you spend that 100 units is what I mean about planning.
Right.
And even before you get income, you have to equip yourself to be able to earn income. So having money is preceded by the ability to earn money.
Right.
And then when you have it, you have to plan on how, the essentials, food, living expenses, and really your food, your rent, your utilities, the school fees if you have children, shouldn't be a surprise. Those are things that you should put away. But also you should plan for the future. So you should allocate some money for saving, and you put that away as well regularly. And if when you earn 100 naira, you learn to put away 10 naira of it, when you earn 1 billion, you would already be in the mindset and have the muscle to put away some. So it's very important. It's very important to save, and it's important to invest, because, and I see this, people go through life, they're in good jobs, they haven't planned how to manage their money, they haven't saved well, they haven't invested, and then they come to retirement and it's like, oh, then they suddenly feel, I need to have a hustle to enable me live, when they should be enjoying
what they have worked.
Yes, their latter years. So it's important to have money, but it's more important to know how to manage your money and how to save and invest for the future. And so, interestingly, apart from my day job, I created a financial literacy game. It's on the it's called Yellow Cowries, and it really is card and digital game where actually starting financial literacy clubs in schools, starting across Lagos State, and we're working with some universities as well, teaching from a young age about planning, saving and investing, but using gamification.
Of course.
Because, the young
generation
and anybody really,
yes,
if you have reams of text to learn about these things, boring text,
motivated.
But if we play games, people are competitive and they're learning the tips. Some of the things that I've mentioned here are some of the tips that are in the game. So it's a Yellow Cowries platform, and we're catching them young, going into schools, and we've also created a business version for small businesses, because again, if you can be the best, content creator, you can be the best beauty makeup artist, you can be the best engineer, but when you make that money, you need to know how to manage it and how to manage it within your business.
Brilliant.
It's very important.
Like, what do you think? How important is it for people to know how to understand money and how to manage it?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, like Tokunbo said, it does make the world go round. But I think, money is so much more. It's almost an emotional thing. And I will come from it from the perspective of not necessarily being a wealth or financial expert, but somebody who has lived her life through a personal journey, understanding how money has shaped my experiences and informed some of my life choices.
Right.
And actually has, in some ways, actually helped me understand even how to manage relationships. Right. I think that, many of us growing up, at least in my generation, we didn't have the level of intentionality and all the resources that you see now. Now we live in a digital economy, so you can't even feign that I didn't know.
Yes.
Or I didn't hear. Tokunbo talked about Yellow Cowries that she's doing. That's a resource out there, and information is so widespread. But as I was saying in the behind the scenes, I grew up in a time when it was kind of, yes, your parents are there to provide for you. Fine, you go through school, they invest. And I had to learn a very hard lesson early. My first year of university, when I was I had a roommate who came from a really, really wealthy background, another African country, Zimbabwe. And I came from an okay, normal middle class background, but not super wealthy. And I blew a lot of money in the first 2 terms of university. And it got so bad. This was my monthly stipend, right, coming from my parents. And I remember after that, they started to demand that I fax my monthly bank statements to them. That was my first teaching in accountability. I felt bad. And there was this sense of, I've really disappointed these people because this is money they worked hard for. I remember they would talk about stories about how they sold shares in those days. You know, they did all these things to send you to go to school, and you're here just comparing yourself to the child of royalty. And so for me, early in life, and I wouldn't say it was that early. I was about 18, 19 when this lesson kind of happened. So I kind of realized, look, you need to take control of your decision insofar as money is concerned, because clearly it's tied to so many other aspects of your life. That was when I started to truly value the investment of time and financial resources that my parents had made in me. So it kind of shaped my thinking. And from then on, I was like, look, I really need to ensure that I have that security for life, because I don't want it to impact relationships. It's like a turning point in my relationship with my parents. So I think for me, money is extremely important, and the management of money is important. But particularly because money gives you options and choices in life. And if you ask the average Nigerian today or the average person, people will tell you 50% of the time, a lot of their challenges are centered around finances, right? And even if they say their challenge is marriage or children or something, you will trace it back to there's some sort of
lack of it,
financial foundation, the misuse of it, the lack of it, or the abundance of it.
Exactly.
Right? So it's so central to everything we do. It gives you options, it gives you freedom, it gives you independence, and we can go into so many details of it. And then the second story I wanted to share was really 2020 at the height of COVID, when I was in transition between careers. And, you know, myself and my husband had come to this point where we do our annual kind of vision boarding. What are we going to do as a family? How are we going to save, invest? And, you know, there's so much noise out there, and a lot of people like multiple streams of income and income. And I was talking and getting all excited. Yeah, I can monetize this skill, this talent, And my husband kind of stopped me in my tracks. And he was like, look, Rolake, impact first before income. And that was a wake-up moment. It was a light bulb moment, because he wasn't saying like, look, trying to make money in multiple ways is not great. But you need to be very deliberate. Because the things that you want to put your mind into to make money from, you have to be really passionate about them. Because you will not have that longevity to stay the course when things don't go well. So here was an interesting new type of narrative. Well, yes, I can go and make money, but if I see somebody, you know, baking cakes, and I think I want to open a bakery because I think that person is now a millionaire from being a cake baker, but I don't have the passion for it, I may do all the formula that she's using, but I will not make the same amounts of money as she. So that was also a turning point for me, where I was like, okay, if I'm going to stay the course and really find ways to build wealth and make it sustainable, I have to be really passionate and really pour myself 100% into what I'm doing to have that longevity to ride the different waves. And you know, we live in a world where there's cycles, there's a downturn, the economy is up today, it's down today. But even with that, there are people who have longevity, who are sustaining their financial wealth, come rain, come shine, because there's purpose in what they're doing. And for me, that's been another revelation of the centrality of money and how it's tied to our decision making.
And just our way of living.
Yeah, our way of living. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So Tokunbo, let me come to you and ask you, what are the challenges that women face in building wealth? Why is this not commonplace, right? And I don't want to preempt you and say, is it that we don't learn it? Because how is it that the world suddenly is men have money, women don't have money? What are the challenges that women face?
Oh, there are many. But if we start with sort of on the personal finance basis, oftentimes the woman is the one who's the primary carer in the home. And so she may not go out to work and therefore not build up the experience and the wealth making platform for herself. So she's not making the income that I'm even saying we need to understand how to manage. And it's just by default, the woman of the house is usually the one who makes that sacrifice. Yeah. And, you know, what I would say is that different households need to think about how they manage for that and how we also recognize the wealth that's being built as a homemaker. That needs to be factored in economy. But if we even then talk about women that then go out to say, okay, even if I'm at home, I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to leave my full-time job and start a business. Oftentimes, it stays at a certain subsistence scale because it's difficult to access the finance that can enable the business to scale. And there are many reasons why that happens, but there's the statistic that over 50% of businesses in Africa, so in this continent, are led by women, but that 50% usually attracts less than 5% of the total funding available for businesses. So investment allocators need to be intentional about getting money into the hands of women that are running businesses. On the other side, to overcome the being overlooked and the biases that prevent women from getting access to this money, women also have to come to the table ready to talk about their business, ready to and not be afraid to be accountable for funding coming into their business so that it can scale to a level where they can build wealth and not just be about how they meet the needs of the family. Because the adage is that you give a woman 100 naira, she will spend 99 of it on everyone else, and the one just to make sure that the other 99 is spent well. So she spends nothing on herself, right? So also being intentional about, okay, let me make money, let me know how to manage it, but let me be accountable and ready to accept money so that I can build something beyond a lifestyle business. Right. And often that means also raising the aspirations to want to do something that can create wealth. Now, there's some people who want to stay, some women who do want to stay at that subsistence level. Yeah. But even within that, like I said, I said 100 units earlier. I didn't say a billion or a trillion. Even within that 100 units, you can be intentional about saving. And, you know, it's interesting what Alake said, because, you know, when we look at the wholeness of a being, financial prosperity is a key part of mental well-being, you know, the being confident in yourself and removing the stresses and the trauma of everyday life. So it is important that women are intentional about building wealth and to overcome those challenges. Like I said, they need to raise their aspirations and be ready to be accountable to receive funding that can probably help them to scale.
I really love that framing around, you know, investing in financial knowledge and literacy actually is investing in your well-being. Yeah. Because oftentimes, if you think about the way we're socialized, where it's almost like, no, you're not the one who should have money. It almost seems like maybe if we reframe it, then we can get more women actually being interested in the conversation to build wealth. But
interested and intentional.
Absolutely. Yeah. Intentional. So Rolake, what would you add to that? What are some of the challenges that you think women face that really inhibits them building wealth?
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you talk about women and money, you also have to talk about men and money, right? Because I feel that depending on what your sort of family or social construct is, it kind of shapes. Sometimes I feel like women are damned if they do and damned if they don't. And You know, so if you're a single woman in Nigerian society and you're doing financially well for yourself, you're making money, maybe you're an early riser in your career, you've attained C-suite level, or you're running your own business and you're doing well and living comfortably, there are whispers and questions, and that's just the reality. It's not a cliche thing. Things like that also happen, and it may not be so direct. It may always, some of it is understated. You know, you hear stories of women who go to investors or go to angels sometimes for money, and they ask questions like, who's your financial backer? Whereas the woman is in the driving seat of, you know, she owns her entire table, the chair and everything around it. So that's one side of it. The other part is that in our society, men culturally have been sort of positioned as the providers. But you know that these days, families are not your typical traditional father, mother, child. There are women who are in single families, they're blended families, divorced, widowed, there are all sorts of situations. So you always have a woman who finds herself an anomaly.
Sure.
Either she's in a marriage where she's a main breadwinner, and that happens even in Nigerian society, or she's in a situation where she's completely dependent on a man. And so her ability to liberate herself or be financially independent or call her own shots around money is always defined in the context of this other person. And I think part of what needs to happen is, apart from the financial education and the education around literacy and how to manage money, is the cultural biases and stereotypes. And we need to disabuse ourselves of all those. And this is not just a man problem. This is also a problem of other women as well. So I think that's part of the challenge as well. There's a cultural side. But the side, now, if I bring it back to women ourselves, we actually need to start believing that embracing finance and money as things we can own, we can build, we can increase, and we can multiply. Right. And actually believe the fact that we have the talent, the skills, and wherewithal to make money and then use it for our good. Because once you discover that your ability to create financial security and independence then helps you unlock other types of opportunities in life where you can support charitable causes, go into philanthropy, invest. It's such a liberating thing. And I think Tokunbo alluded to confidence and how it really builds, you know, it's like a virtuous cycle. And the more women actually that come out and own their success financially, it actually is a great signal, in fact, for younger women who may have grown up in backgrounds where they're taught to see that the man is only the breadwinner or should be the only breadwinner. Of course, circumstances change. And I think for us, it's important to have more of these models speak out. Because there are a lot of women doing well, financially well. They have the formula. They know what it takes to get this done. But for whatever reason, some of them are muted. You know, maybe this is a personal thing for them, or just the feedback from society or the criticism and judgment that comes from owning your own means. And I think we really need to do a lot to shape and change the narrative. And then the last one I will really talk about is, you know, because I have a family, I'm a blended family, so I have my own biological son, but I also have three step kids. And one of the things, and it's mixed, boys and girls. And one of the things I think is really important is the intentionality around parenting insofar as money and how to make money, who goes to work, who brings the money home, and ensuring that people see that these roles don't always have to be gendered. Yes, I want the father or the husband of the house or whoever the partner to obviously be a breadwinner, but his circumstance may change, and that's okay if in that season, mommy rises up to the plate and is the one who is helping to provide that stability and foundation for that season. And those roles can interchange in life. And I think when children see that from a young age, you know, they are the future. You know, it then creates that cultural, you know,
co-leadership.
The co-leadership, but also the critical mass we need to start to break some of those biases. You know, it's like, you know, if I need somebody to wash plates in the kitchen, I don't have to call my daughter, I'll call my son. If I need somebody to help me with the engine oil in the car, I don't have to call my son, I'll call my daughter. Because I want to send a very deliberate message about the fact that we all need each other. We can all make money together. We can all learn how to manage and handle finances together as a family.
That's amazing. Well, I don't know if you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am, but we'll take a short break and we'll continue when we get back. Welcome back to the show. We're still talking about Show Me the Money. So I want us to go to, this is the governance series. And I want us to talk about how we can encourage, we've talked about the financial knowledge gap. We've talked about funding being a problem. We've talked about financial resources not being accessible by women. But how can women start to get the financial knowledge, get the funding, and get the financial resources that they need to build political power?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll come at this from two angles, actually, because we've talked earlier about the fact that there are often hurdles to women gaining access to finance. In terms of hurdles to understanding money, really, resources are out there. We've talked about financial literacy. I've talked about the financial literacy game. So women can take control of that.
Yeah.
Rather than scrolling all those dance videos, maybe scroll a couple of financial literacy platforms. So that can happen. Now, in terms of hurdles, and I run a fund that is intentional about backing female founders. And so, and it's a unique fund in that we don't just wait for women to come to us for finance. We actually also call them up, we track them and say, oh, I see your business. What if money was no object? What would you do? And more often than not, the answer is just a millimeter above where they are. And I'm like, how about building a factory? How about, increasing your distribution platform? How about bringing in a full team? How much would you need? And then we can move from a need of, oh, I only need 100,000 naira to, oh, I need 100 million naira. We can, that's the kind of flexing that we like to do to empower women. So why do I say that? From a very early age, girls are in a fear factory. They're in homes, and we've alluded to this earlier. And it's actually, there's a book called The Female Fear Factory, and it talks about the fear factory that women are brought up in society. So you're at home, your young boy says, Mommy, I want to go and roll outside and play football and, be with other children in the neighborhood. Okay, go out, meet other children, roll in the hay, come back, all dirty, no problem. The girl, don't talk to strangers. Don't do this. Don't fall. So there's this constant fear factory. Then you get to school. In some schools, like, are you sure you can do science? There's already a performance bias being built in that, the burly boy can do more. They've got the brawn, and the girls should maybe just do something easy, home economics. And so we also need to break those cultural fear factory, that manufacturing of fear, so that when women are thinking about their options, they are thinking, I can build a large-scale business that's exporting product. I can.
Right.
I can do anything I set my mind to. So that's one aspect of women being able to break out of that mold. But coming back to the biases, and I said this earlier as well, behind the scenes, that if you're not invited to this table, and I'm especially speaking to the girls, the women, create your own table.
Yes.
Go somewhere, create your own table, bring, have the confidence to do that. Because if you're not invited to the party, have a bigger and better party. You can. So we have to get rid of that fear factory. We have to take the confidence, and we have to take the bold steps to step out where we're not invited.
I think that's really important, this idea of, overcoming the fear that is sort of almost injected into women. Because with regards to political power, there's also a fear that that's not even a terrain that you should go to.
Yep.
And then when you are confronted with that sort of additional obstacle of finances, it's almost double jeopardy, isn't it?
Yep.
So Rolake, how is it that women can overcome all these barriers and actually build financial resources, have the knowledge and expertise to then go for political power? Because anywhere in the world, right, if you desire or seek political power, you need economic power.
Yeah, you do. And especially more so in Nigeria because, you know, politics and money are so intertwined. I think if we take it on a micro level, I think one of the things I've discovered in my journey is that when I get to a stage in my life where I want to sort of move up to the next level, I've stopped blaming others, right? I look at myself, do like a self-audit. Are there competency gaps? If I think I have this goal, whether it's running for office, for something, or standing for something, or applying for something, instead of saying, well, you know, society is biased, I'll never get in, what's the point? I see, what do I need to do to come up to speed, where I even feel like I'm on a level playing field. And I think it's important that as women start to think about how to advance, whatever it is that I hate to use the word, but they play according to the rules of the game. And I hate to say somehow that I feel the game is somewhat rigged against us. You know, we often talk about the old boys club. You know, this kind of mysterious club where men are rooting for each other, supporting each other, giving each other the best deals, sponsoring each other's political parties. But there's a science to it, which is, you know, the networks, the relationships, stepping out, being bold, you know, going for that training, signing up for that course, sending that proposal, just taking some very deliberate steps. There's a way things work in the business world, in politics. Now, some of it is obviously underhand dealings. You know, you always want to be above board. But the reality is you need to understand where you are. Exactly. Compared to the industry or the sector, the game you want to play is, and find ways to plug that gap. The other thing I find is that, you know, we often say that your network is your net worth. I think relationships are so key in terms of seeing, you know, realizing financial results, whatever that is, capital raising, because those relationships open other doors. And if you build good relationships, people sometimes are willing to stake their reputation and their social capital on you.
Women build relationships, Rebecca, don't we?
Do.
Like, that's something we do naturally.
So, yes, but you know, I think we do build relationships, but we need to make sure that we're building relationships that matter and that we're not reinforcing the cycle of the old boys network. Because the reality is, let's be honest, it's still a man's world. If you look at leadership positions, whether in politics, business, government, the top positions, I mean, you only need to look at how many female legislators or senators are there in Nigeria. You know that it's a man's world. So the question is, if I, as a woman, now wants to get into politics, do I just go and hang out with the women's circles? No. I also have to find the male allies, those who've done it, to understand how it's done. How are these guys able to bag the huge amounts of sponsorships they get? Yes, competence plays a role, but let's not kid ourselves. There are certain things you need to do, but preserving your credibility and integrity. Because I think we're also in a world, the flip side of the coin is women sometimes are being forced into situations where they're having to compromise in order to realize these gains. And I know politics could be one of those spheres, but also it happens in business. So I would just boil it down to understand where you are in the game. Where are my gaps? Where are my knowledge gaps? Where are my relationship gaps?
Right.
I can't just sit in, I'm an introvert, so I don't talk to people. I don't go out there. I don't want to be seen as. Right. Sometimes you have to do these things and then have your accountability circles, find your mentors. What about the women who've done it before? Right. I guess this is also a clarion call encouragement to women who've gone up higher to leave the ladder open so that the others can climb up. Let us know the formula. How did you do it? What steps did you take? We know you didn't blow overnight. We know there were some
And we're not asking for you to just hand it down.
We're not asking for handouts. So I think, especially with politics, and you know, I'm a member of WIMBIZ, and WIMBIZ has a thing called WIMPOL that has done a lot of work. And some of the research has actually shown that the networks have been particularly key. And this is so important because some of the business opportunities I have come across have been because of relationships I've mined. So I started a coaching business in 2020 informally that has now grown via referrals. Now, it's an additional source and stream of income, but I'm mining and nurturing those relationships. And sometimes, even when I don't feel like I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, I'm saying, you know, I have to attend that event because the people that matter may be there and I need to be willing to put myself out there to realize those results.
And I think that goes back to Tokunbo's earlier point around there is a preparation to then put yourself in position to build wealth and to access those financial resources. Before our time disappears, I want us to talk about what the public sector and private sector can do to actually encourage this economic empowerment of women. And I think the flip side of that is society also recognizing, whether it's the public sector or the private sector, that there are benefits of this as well. So if you can speak to those two things.
Yeah, something I always say is that no economy is going to reach its full potential if it's only playing with half its team. Mm-hmm. And so excluding women from business and not ensuring that they have the same opportunities and particularly access to finance and the education and the wherewithal to build business and to participate at the tables at high power is a disadvantage for our economy, Nigeria, Africa as a whole. On the private side, I think I've mentioned initiatives like Alethea Capitals, where we have a fund and we're very intentional about seeking out female founders and businesses that impact on women. On the public side, to be honest, again, there needs to be intentionality. Right. And there have been those programs where...
It's mostly palliatives, isn't it?
Well, I'm coming to that. Well, Sanusi, when he was governor, had he pushed a mandate of increasing the representation of female directors on bank boards. Yes. So those kind of initiatives and policies need to be in place, and beyond palliatives. And actually, the fact that there's been more of a preponderance of palliatives is because there's still a mindset that this is charity.
Right.
So the mindset also needs to shift from the fact that it's not charity, it's not just a moral obligation, it's an economic imperative.
Absolutely.
And so there needs to be that mindset change, and there needs to be those policies indeed. And the private sector needs to be intentional, and indeed that is already happening. Right. So on both sides, there needs to be a shift. But the key thing is that mindset shift.
Right.
That enables the public and private sector to understand it's not a charity, and there are what we call dividends of diversity. Better governance, we're talking about governance theories here. You can't have good governance if you have groupthink because everybody is the same. Yeah. All male board. There's going to be groupthink. There's the studies that show that men are more sort of risk prone, whereas women in their thinking put the brakes on a bit. You need that balance. Yeah. You need better decision making with that diversity of thought and perspectives. You get better creativity and innovation when you have diverse thought, but also when you're thinking about products for a diverse market. Right. And if you're thinking about products for a diverse market, you have to, by definition, have people within the firm that can reflect that market and that can understand those diverse perspectives. So there's a lot that's happening around intentionality on the private side. There needs to be more policy and push and not just pinkwashing, I call it, on either public or private side. But more importantly, like I said, that mindset shift. Absolutely. Understand that if Nigeria is going to reach its full potential, it needs to play with the whole team. Right. It's an economic benefit. Absolutely. I mean, women globally make decisions on purchasing for over $15 trillion. Really, if you're not thinking about the tastes and preferences and how the woman in the household or the owner of a business or the chairwoman of a board is making decisions, you're missing out.
Absolutely. Rolake, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I endorse everything Tokunboh has said. She kind of spoke my mind. I think the reality is we have to realize the catalytic effect that money and wealth in the hands of women can have on a society. It has to become like this strategic national thing. And I think leadership has a lot to do with it that is then cascaded down. From a public sector perspective, I'm definitely a big advocate of quotas. Not Not because I don't think women are not competent. Women are super competent, but there's a problem of equity, which is that we're starting from a low base. So I think we need to see more of that.
Yeah.
And we need strong leadership to drive that. She gave the example of Sanusi. That was a leader in financial services that took that decision, which is why leadership is key. On the private sector side, I do think that we need to start holding ourselves more accountable in leadership, in management, on boards, because within private sector, for women who are career women, for instance, not even just entrepreneurs, your ability to rise through the ranks is a source of wealth creation. The more you have, the more you're able to save and invest and so on. But we need more accountability at that level. And because that then creates a role modeling effect. And it's, like I said, it's a virtuous cycle. So I think there's a lot the public and the private sector can do. I've always felt that the development of Nigeria and Africa hinges on our ability to liberate our women and allow them to fulfill their fullest potential. And we have models. Go to Rwanda, go to a few countries. You see that women are running and calling the shots in very strategic national enterprises and organizations. And there is a strong business and economic case.
Yes.
You know, the research has been done. It's been done over and over again. So, you know, the proof will not be in the pudding. It's already in the pudding.
Yeah.
Let's just be willing to eat it.
Simple.
That's it.
All right.
Okay, can have it.
So before we go, the young women in the audience, they've listened to you today. They want to take action. They want to make a change. They don't want to be in a position where they don't have the financial wealth and, you know, everything to do what they need to do for their mental well-being, for their way of living, for their community, their society, to access political leadership if they so desire. What would you say to them?
Equip yourselves. Start with that. Education. Education is a main tool to be able to create wealth, because that's how you then go on to think about your career, how you make money, your income, and really be bold in your choices. If you want, you know, go into the hard subjects that will enable you to make hard finance. Do not listen to no. If that's where your heart is, go for it. And if you go into whatever you go into, be the best at whatever you're going into. And once you've equipped yourselves, be bold. Don't be a flower on the wall. Speak up, participate, be seen. You can. There's no reason. If we take a poll of the positioning according to grades, I already know where you stack. I know, because oftentimes we are the efficos. That effico that you have in school, use it through life and be bold. And like I said earlier, take those steps. And if you're not invited to the table, create your own table.
Love it.
You can do it.
Table. Well, okay, what are you saying to the young women?
Yeah, you know, education. You know, you have to develop a lifelong learning mentality. You know, for every position or achievement you've made, create a new competency gap, stretch yourself, you know, pull yourself to try harder and dream bigger. But most importantly, something I'm really passionate about, learn how to build and nurture healthy relationships. Relationships are like a door. They're like a key you open, and they open up a whole world of opportunity to you. Relationships are essentially your net worth. And it's important that at this stage in your young lives, you're already learning how to build, nurture, and create mutually beneficial relationships where you bring value to, not just you seeking to, you know, like a parasite, seeking to extract, but relationships that you can bring value to, because they're like your social capital. They will stand you in good stead in life to access tremendous opportunities. That would be my main advice.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I have, and I hope that somehow we have started to show you the money. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll go into our gaming segment, Misrepresented. And now it's time for Misrepresented, our gaming segment. Today, we will dive into history to reminisce on historic female leaders. Our participants will give us answers to our who was questions. Representing Team A and B are Precious and Daniel. Give them a round of applause. Now, question 1. Which of these women stopped the killing of twins in Nigeria? We have 3 options. Mary Mitchell Slessor, Williams Smith, or Rebecca Stone. Team A?
Mary Mitchell Slessor.
Team B?
Mary Mitchell Slessor.
Give them a round of applause. Question 2. Who is the first and only Nigerian woman to appear on a currency note? A. Omolade Ademola. B. Ladi Dose Kwali. And C. Kofo Abayomi. Team A?
B. Ladi Dose Kwali.
B. Ladi Dose Kwali.
Give them a round of applause. On this note, we would like to thank our distinguished guests for joining us on today's episode. Thank you to Ms. Rolake Akinkugbe and to Ms. Tokunbo Ishmael. We appreciate you for being part of today's episode. And of course, to our live audience, you have been simply amazing. To our viewers watching today's episode, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us across all social media platforms at Will and Global, like, share, and leave us a comment. And remember that women's leadership can change everything, everywhere. See you next week.